Welcome to this little video. Today I'm going to talk about learning technology platforms and how to categorize the different vendors and the different types of technology that we got out there. So you may have been at conferences and met a lot of these different vendors, and if you have, you'll know that there are tons of new technologies out there for you to try out in your organization. And quite frankly, it can get a little bit confusing to try and figure out what's what do I need, what's the difference between one vendor and the other. And that's why I think it might be helpful to look at some of these different types of technology that we got out here. So a little bit about me. My name is Casper. I've been in the learning and development industry for more than 10 years. I'm currently working as head of learning technology for Siemens in the Americas. So day-to-day, learning technology is really what I deal with. And in this video and others, I try to share my experience on learning, development, and also a lot on learning technology in particular. So I hope you'll enjoy and get something out of it. So there are different types of platforms out there, and you can categorize them in different ways. Some like to have just a very few categories. One would be, for instance, learning management systems. Another would be learning delivery channels, and maybe one or two more. But I've decided I'm going to, throw out a few more categories than that, just to get a little bit more granular in the marketplace of what's out there. So what I'm going to talk about is learning experience platforms, program experience and delivery platforms, micro-learning platforms. We're going to talk about assessment, development and delivery tools, content libraries, LMS platforms, and finally we're going to talk about LRSs, or learning record stores. So those are the different categories that I'll be talking about and try to attach vendors to. All right, so let's start with learning experience platforms. These are the types of platforms that try to make it easier for learners to get access to content. They curate content a little bit. A lot of them deploy AI and recommendation engines, which I'll talk much more about in another video. Examples of these are things like Degreed, PathGather, SAP has some, SAP Jam I think it's called, Fuse, and others. What's interesting about learning experience platforms is really that they try to sit on top of your entire infrastructure and try to make it easy for the learner to get access to any and all content. So they can gather content from your intranet, from your LMS, from YouTube, from Twitter, from external content libraries, internal content libraries, and they really try and make this a good experience for the learner, which is why they're called learning experience platforms. A lot of interesting things happening in this space, but this is really the wrapper around all of the rest of your infrastructure, and I think that's how you should try and think of the learning experience platforms. The other type that is a little bit related is the program experience platforms. So they're related and similar in the sense that they try to give the learner a really good experience with learning. But the difference here is that the program delivery platforms typically focus on more individual learning content. So let's say, for instance, you have a leadership development program that you're rolling out for your organization. In this case, a program experience platform can gather all the content that you want to use in that leadership development program, put it together, and try and make it stand out and be relevant for your learners. Another type of platform is the micro-learning platform. Examples of this are Axonify, Grovo, QStream, Practice, Blue Ocean Brain. What all of these do is try and feed the learner a bunch of bits of learning, micro-learning. So they will typically get the content for you, and some are also open for you to bring your own content into the platform. But the focus is here really on the learning modality and the learning theory behind bite-sized learning. And there's a lot of theory around it, and a lot of good theory around it as well. So We also have a lot of new assessment, development, and delivery tools. We have video authoring tools. We obviously have intelligent assessment tools are becoming much more prevalent. Those are really interesting. We have spaced learning. We have virtual reality. We have augmented reality. Content libraries is another type of platforms that we have out there. And what a content library basically is a collection of content that someone has collected for you, created for you, or curated for you. There are different ways of going about this, and there are different vendors. Some of the ones that you probably know are vendors like Skillsoft, Cross Knowledge, Open Sesame, LinkedIn Learning. Yeah, those are the ones I can think of right now. Those are the really big players in the market, and they have libraries of thousands and thousands, typically just basic e-learning, sometimes better than basic e-learning. And these learning content libraries really also have a good space for you in your infrastructure, in that it can be almost impossible to create all that content yourself. And even if you could, the question is really if you want to. With today's learning needs evolving so quickly, I'm not sure you will really want to create that much content. So buying into one of these who then integrate into your learning management system, or perhaps your learning experience platform, is really a good way of making sure that your learners have a ton of e-learning available. They can search for themselves and really get the content they need at a pretty good price from the get-go. All right, LMS platforms. There's a lot happening in the LMS space. I will talk more about that in another video. The LMS is not everyone is happy with the LMS. Not a lot of people were ever really happy with it. It did serve its purpose, but it seems that it was designed more for the administrator than the learner, and that's why I think learning experience platforms, which sit on top of the LMS, really have such a huge amount of success right now. But when we look at LMS, the big guys are Saba, Cornerstone, SumTotal, Workday, Oracle, Litmus, and maybe a few others. They are basically, a lot of them are on par with each other, I feel like. I have a lot of experience with Saba myself, and also with Workday and Cornerstone. I think we'll be seeing a lot of consolidation in this market. It'll be really interesting to see how these guys really live up to the demand of learners in 2018 and beyond, considering that people are getting so used to excellent user interfaces that they will simply not accept a sluggish and old school type learning environment anymore. So it'll be interesting to see. But learning management systems is definitely one of the categories that we can put a lot of vendors into. Now, the final one I want to talk about is learning record stores. And learning record stores are an interesting new development that really are based around, they're based around different things, but one of the main reasons why we're seeing them is because of XAPI, or the Tin Can API, which is a new type of SCORM, if you want. It's a new type of communication of data between a learning record store, which is a database, and then the content that's happening on your learning management system, in your browsers, and your learning experience platforms. Learning record stores essentially are databases that capture data about what your learners do. So for instance, if a learner goes out and starts an e-learning, it will capture that Peter or John started an e-learning. They can get pretty granular if you want to, depending on how you set up your e-learning, so they can capture how much time did Peter or John spend in it, did they complete it, what was their score, and even more behaviors of your learners can be captured there. And not only is it captured there, you can also analyze it. And I don't know about you, but we in my company have a lot of data. We're talking billions of records. And once you have that much data, you can start doing interesting things with it, with big data analysis, You can run predictive analytics. You can do a lot of interesting things, and I think that's why the learning record stores have come up here. We have a few vendors on that, Watershed, and a few others. So that was just a quick introduction to the different types of learning technology platforms out there. We'll be talking a lot more about how do you actually integrate them, when do you use what, and which space does each of these categories of learning technology fit in your overall infrastructure or in your overall strategy. But for now, just a quick video on the different types of learning technology and some of the vendors in each of those categories. Hope you enjoyed.